Two Worlds, a series that in its first entry showed just how bonkers and hilarious the RPG adventures of the 2000s could be. Oh God. And following our look into Two Worlds last year, looked to sit proudly as a hidden gem of the so bad it's good Elder Scrolls at Home genre. But what of its sequel a few years later, with another swing by Polish developers Reality Pump at striking action RPG gold? Did they in this second entry carve out a truly memorable RPG epic, or once again deliver to its players an experience so silly that even the NPCs are outraged?
Right, that's it. I've had enough. I can't believe it, he kicked me in the bollocks!
Well, my friends, today we find out, as we dive into another outing with a series that's practically impossible to take seriously, for an experience that you won't soon forget. My name's MitchManix, and this is the insanity of Two Worlds 2. Two Worlds 2 opens with an introduction, taking an unfortunate departure from any mention of the land's dangerous infestation of the taint, plaguing the lands of the first game, most likely following after a number of rather spicy Google searches from the Polish developers, but following on directly from the first outing, with our hero and his sister in the clutches of Gandahar, who's clearly still keen on exploiting our sister, despite her dope newly acquired Mage NES accessory headgear, and who has come down with an unfortunate case of Fire God Possession Syndrome. But as we all know, Gandahar, with medieval Darth Vader looking to turn this to his advantage.
Your flame flickers in the wind, Ezreal.
Following the group therapy session, we are dragged back down to the dungeon, just before a couple of orcs jump out from the shadows and quickly make short work of the guards in an attempt to break us out, with the female orc then introducing herself in one of the most mid-2000s intros I've seen in a while.
3, 2, 1. Anywhere I'm at, turn the city up. I could flip a dial to 1,000,000. I don't like to brag, but I'm really young.
Getting introduced to some of the other orc rescuers, our female friend explains a little around why they are there, while also seemingly trying to fight the urge to fire her own eyeballs out of her skull. She explains that they have been sent by an oracle that leads the last of the orcs, and promises to explain more when they are safely free from the castle. A jailbreak that has not gone unnoticed by the castle guards.
My lord! Something happened!
Something happened. Give this man a raise. With Gandahar sending out his second-in-command to get us back, infuriated by it all. Either that or he's still pissed about all of this interrupting his din-dins that he was busy enjoying while wearing his comically oversized bib, with the alarm being raised leading to actually a pretty awesome fight between Gandahar's henchmen and one of our orc friends, with another orc mage dealing with the guards covering their escape. And while watching, I can't help but be reminded of the rude interruptions suffered in the first game. With the castle's forces attempting to slow us down even more by reducing the frame rate to single digits, we end up cornered, allowing us to get a first look at the game's combat, which in this first offering oddly consisted of our hero spinning around while laughing maniacally to himself. Which I have to admit, even after playing the first game, I didn't see that one coming. But with the guards subdued, the escape is made, barreling through a portal arriving at alarming speed. Ooh. As well as other alarming revelations, such as our hero being flung upon his female companion and leaping on the opportunity by going very much for the Charles Manson school of seductive facial expressions, maneuvering himself one small twitch away from a place on a register. Now out of the castle, arriving at the orc camp, a feat that insanely only 9% of players have actually achieved. I wonder if that's a bad omen. We get introduced to some of the game's controls and mechanics. Galaxy brain ideas such as putting sprint and sneak on the same button, and interact sharing a button with jump, leading to while playing through the game and scrolling through text, giving way to some less than intimidating beginnings to combat encounters.
Don't say I didn't warn you.
At the orc camp, we learn the basics of both ranged and melee combat, use an environmental trap used to dispatch some clearly deaf orcs, a mechanic that the game never uses again, and get a chance to explore for some supplies.
What do we have here?
Do I want to know? Crossing a nearby bridge, we meet the oracle that the orcs have been following, as well as unlock the base hub of the game, that features a blacksmith, player storage, and a teleporter that after retrieving a personal teleport stone from an orc and a lumberjack, we can use to reach the game's main islands, a highly useful teleporter, but one that's located in what's quickly sounding like the most dangerous location in the entire game.
But you should be able to use it to access any teleport we've connected to. As of now, that means the one in the camp and the one in my room.
Following the oracle, shaving a couple of years off of my lifespan.
Where can I find her?
She's here.
You handle yourself quite well.
Jesus Christ.
Wow.
We step through the teleporter to begin the true adventure. The two worlds splits across 3 islands. An adventure carried out by the player's created character, assuming the role of the hero. But unlike some RPGs, how the character is created does not have any impact on their abilities or the game's narratives. Aside from with our hero donning the forehead of champions, that is far more capable in combat than any other combination of his limbs. The game's 3 main chapters consisting of a number of main and side quests to get stuck into, with the former now and again featuring some branching choices for the players to make. Deciding to side with a troubled student or their professor, or later trying to figure out if this creature is a witch or just in fact a very clapped old woman. None of the branching stories really have any long-lasting impact over now and again leading to the odd silly death, but still nice to see even if it's just for the illusion of choice. Two Worlds 2 sports far more quests and side quests than the initial release, but still unfortunately is a little hot and cold when it comes to its voice acting performances. Some on the better side even if they sound like already established characters.
Allow me to apply the finishing touches, and yes, here you are.
Stacked up next to conversations that play out like a face-off in the finals of the monotoned delivery Olympics.
I'm looking for Eric. I am Eric. Master Caneth asked me to meet with you. Yes. Regarding your disability.
For the most part, characters are a lot more believable than the accidentally stumbling into an underfunded Ren Fair feeling of the first game, with quest variety also being reasonably varied, outside of course of the mind-numbing boredom of the start of the game's second chapter. But overall, the game having some interesting plot lines, playing out in side quests while leveling up and progressing through the game.
Sorry, what?
Scheiße! I just made kid with you.
I sincerely hope not. Full, quite lengthy side quest plotlines, coupled with job boards offering much more quick-fire quests, alongside the main storyline gives players a lot to get busy with during the game's runtime, getting a chance to meet all manner of characters, and uncover a whole host of lore and strange encounters.
Gorlak said you needed a hug.
How about I hug your head with my thighs?
Why is everyone in this game trying to fuck me? Two Worlds 2 also features far more in-game cutscenes to help add some flair to its dramatic moments, such as here uncovering a mage that has been secretly hoarding all of the Tiberium. Cutscenes of course helping to add to that fantasy RPG adventure feeling, ramping up the drama as the plotline plays out, but ultimately feeling quite campy, but with that of course having its own charm. Boss battles also make a return, mostly in the form of foes featuring at the end of each chapter, and are a little hit and miss to say the least, mostly due to the game's combat when facing enemies that wield what I like to call the arm flaily death hit stun nonsense attack, when unleashed sporting a hitbox the size of a small country, and getting hit stunned to death, making me feel like I'm going to summon my own fire god.
Once more.
Boss fights that are oddly accompanied by a soundtrack that takes forever to start up, or not start at all, leading to most of the fight playing out in silence, leading to a bit of an anticlimactic, awkward sitting in a dentist's waiting room vibe. The game's standard enemies range from typical RPG mainstays, such as mummies that run at the player like a child rushing to their mother to show them their recently clipped 360 no-scope, to less typical enemies such as dinosaurs. Great to see such a huge amount of variety in the game's foes, and one that directly plays into a feature that is a big staple in both Two Worlds games, that being the alchemy, getting a chance to combine a massive amount of different ingredients to cook up potions to grant all manner of buffs and effects, including water walking and even potions that will bring the player back to life if defeated, all created using items and ingredients found from foes and looted from locations all across the game's world, and a system that goes far deeper than a lot of other RPG alchemy systems, with additional complexity being a bit of a trend with Two Worlds 2, when also talking about an element that I feel is what the game is most known for, that of course being its amazingly detailed and customizable magic system, whether it's firing off fireballs that spawn the undead after hitting their target, or putting together a force skill to make an umbrella out of baboons. Two Worlds 2 gives players access to a whole host of spell, element, and effects and modifiers to mix and match for crazy and devastating results, and after switching over from melee in Chapter 2, added a huge amount to the game, not only in terms of being formidable in combat, but also seeking out and tracking down new effects and spell cards to combine together, with Two Worlds 2's magic system actually becoming one of its most highly praised systems, and going at least somewhat of the way to smooth over the fact that the game's developers toned down how players are allowed to interact with the world's NPCs, especially when it comes to another of the game's offensive options. Leaving me high and dry when trying to pull some shenanigans with the game's traps, no matter how hard I tried.
Asking for it.
but once again good to have more options for combat, as after now finishing the game I did find the melee combat to actually be worse than the first game, which is actually oddly impressive. With a very floaty and unintuitive feeling system, made even worse by the game's control scheme, that even for a game coming out in 2010, feels like part of the built-in challenge of it all is actually getting the game to do what you want it to do, as opposed to flailing around wildly. An issue that bleeds over once more to the horse provided in the game, that just like in the first title, controls like a chimpanzee high on bath salts surfing on a wheelbarrow, and a mode of transportation that I acquired in the first act of the game and never saw again, despite a number of times even using the call horse button, apparently just for the lols. But I can't exactly say I'm disappointed, as the horse wasn't exactly the sharpest tool in the shed from the start. Overall, Two Worlds 2 for me is a confusing one. The developers clearly put a focus in improving elements, such as the amount on offer, with a massive amount of quests as well as multiple DLC packs also available, further expanding out systems such as the magic that was already quite good to start with, but at the same time, actually making other core systems even worse than the previous game. The game, even so many years later, still has performance issues, and when it comes to the main story it tells, is still pretty forgettable. But I'll still say that both the Two Worlds games still have a place in my heart, simply down to the sense of humour the games have and how totally silly but also charming both games can feel. This second entry, especially in its quests, has so frequently tongue-in-cheek moments that when coupled with the game's unintentionally funny moments, such as the hero's sometimes off facial expressions, or here with some guards with the tiniest of hands carrying out the tiniest of patrols, makes for an experience that perfectly captures what makes some of the 2000s RPGs so memorable. A game to seek out if you're looking to try out one of the most in-depth spellcrafting systems of any RPG, even to this day, messing around with a friend in the game's co-op adventures, or simply want to jump into an RPG that is impossible to take seriously, but filled with its own charm. Two Worlds 2, just as silly a sequel, and a series that I really hope that one day makes a fumbling follow-up. If you're interested in checking out my look into the first game, I'll leave a little card doodad in the top right hand corner right about now. Please drop the video a like if you enjoyed it, and subscribe for oh so much more. As always, I'm keen to get your thoughts on the video as well as any other RPGs you want to recommend down in the comments. A massive shout out to the channel supporters who help in keeping the content coming. If you're interested in bloopers, outtakes, as well as full exclusive videos, as well as of course being featured at the end of every video, the link to the channel Patreon is down in the description. Thank you again, beautiful people, and I'll see you in the next one. Shit! Jesus, calm down! Oh dear Lord, what have I done? Standing upon his steed like a Segne, the former being mostly due to his reputation of being slightly less than accurate with his spells for unknown reasons.